and we're good to do our little
I'll
thing.
open the show with it. Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
we're all good.
cool. We're gonna give away a tactical flashlight to
Okay.
your listeners.
Okay.
Shaw's Old School Radio Show. From Motown to Uptown. It's Shaw's Old School Radio Show in D-Town. KUHSdenver.com. These days, anything could happen. Are you really prepared for it? Come to the Tanner Gun Show, the largest, most attended gun show in Colorado. This weekend at the Denver Market, you'll find the largest selection of guns, knives, ammo, and outdoor accessories in the state. Tanner shows are buy, sell, or trade, so bring your guns and make some money. Ladies, get the latest in self-protection. Concealed carry permit classes available. That's the Tanner Gun Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Denver Market, 58th Avenue and I-25. Go to TannerGunShow.com.
And welcome to another edition of the Shootist. I'm Fred McHenry, the Shootist, and we got a very exciting show here. A lot of good topics going on. I want to first, before we get going, this is being brought to you by USATrainingFirearms.com.
USAFirearmtraining.com.
I'm so well. I got the owner here, so please, I'm corrected. Thank you. But when it comes to firearm training, I do know this about them. They're very, very thorough, whether you're a beginner all the way up to being one to become a certified instructor. They can certainly take care of all your needs. So all you have to do is just Google USAFirearmstraining.com. They have a very great website. And listen to their podcasts, because I'm listening to them and I get a lot of great information. And the podcast are USAFirearmstraining.com on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a concealed carry podcast.
Carry Conceal podcast. Okay.
I don't think I'm on.
You're on. I can hear you. Just keep
Okay.
talking.
Cool. So yeah, we got the concealed carry podcast, and USAFirearmtraining.com. So actually, we'd like to do, and I got a little message that I'll give a little bit later on the show today, but we'd like to do a little something special for listeners of the Shootist, and we're going to give away a free tactical flashlight. So stay tuned for the details on that.
And also, we have my partner on the show, Mr. Joe Livingston from Fort Worth, Texas. How you doing, Joe?
Doing good. I want one of those tactical flashlights.
But you're not eligible.
Oh, he's
okay.
Anybody's eligible.
That'd be insider information, I guess.
I'll give you the link, and you're welcome to go get it.
Okay. Oh yeah, even better.
There you go. And for those that would like to win the flashlight, the number is 720-386-0513. That's 720-386-0513. And we're just might as well just jump right into it until we get our special guest here. I know he's on his way. We've had a lot of shootings going on here lately, and right now, if you've been listening to the show with us, we've had a lot of different instructors who are also on our law enforcement officers. And it seems like it kind of varies from, well, some has a matrix, some don't have anything. You just use your own discretion. In my mind, I wonder if, in order to help this, that we have and I hate getting the government involved in anything, but I think there needs to be a mandate of what constitutes, what should cause lethal force. What would be the instances? Not just saying, well, I was felt threatened. What do you mean felt threatened? And as we get further into this, I'll talk about the instance with the Tulsa police shooting, where we have two officers right there side by side. One pulls a gun to shoot, one has a taser in his hand, and they shoot simultaneously. One uses deadly force, the other uses a taser. Now, why would one think that one taser would do the job and the other one felt that they had to shoot him? I guess that's my question.
You talking about this Tulsa deal?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've watched the video on that quite a bit, and like over and over and over again. and it's still, it's not entirely clear exactly what happens as far as, why it happens the way it does. But there is such a thing called sympathetic squeeze. Henry or Fred McHenry. I think did you listen to the episode where we talk about that on the Concealed Carry podcast, the sympathetic squeeze?
I didn't, but I will.
So I think it was episode 53 of the podcast that we
Okay.
do. And so we just talked about this, which is interesting because then like that day or the next day we hear about this Tulsa shooting. And here's the thing. So like, yeah, it's clear that one officer is getting ready to deploy his taser.
Mhm.
And it's even it's over the radio. Like hey, we're going to deploy taser, something like that. And so you got one officer with his taser out, the other officer, the female officer, with her gun out. And then you're right. It's almost like simultaneously, that one shoots, one does taser. And I can't help but wonder if that female officer was standing there with her finger on the trigger, which she probably didn't need to be doing, right? Finger on trigger, and then but she sympathetically and unconsciously began squeezing the trigger, kind of subconsciously thinking, okay, we're doing taser, our partner's gonna do taser or whatever, and then she accidentally squeezes the trigger and it fires off that shot.
Well, my thing is, in the training I've been at, deadly force is used as a last resort.
Oh, of course.
And obviously, they could have used a baton. They could have used a taser. There was
Yeah.
4 of them because there were officers still pulling up on the scene at this time. And we're gonna get our special guest. He just arrived. I probably did a horrible job of giving him directions.
Yes.
I'm gonna let him get settled in. And while you're settling in, Joe, kind of give me your thought on that.
I'm going to take the side of could have been sympathetic, could have been, does it look right or tragic? It looks tragic, and I'm hearing you, Fred, and I know you're a caring man, and I hear the could have, would have, should have, we could have done this, we could have done that. I still go back to this. Is it tragic? Yes. Why are we not listening to police officers? Never had a police officer draw his weapon and aim it at me, throw a weapon and aim it at me. I'm not going to resist at that point. I mean, at some point, I'm going to go back to, unless you're mentally ill, you're taking a situation that's very hostile. I don't care whether she fires her weapon or not. If it's cold and aimed at the perpetrator, there's been a hostile situation going on, and then you're not following commands. I mean, you're taking we've got to put responsibility back on some people here. Do I think that shooting was right? No. That's from a person that wasn't there and wasn't involved in the situation. But I guarantee you, when we're dealing with human beings instead of robots, and I don't care whether that officer is black, Hispanic, white, purple, oriental, whatever. I'm pretty sure there's heart rate involved. There's a level of stress and increased heart rate, and things can happen. I still think you look at it and you go, look, why are these people not obeying the command?
That's a great question. Our special guest just arrived, so I definitely want to bring him into this conversation because he deals with this pretty much 24/7. And we are so honored to have the Reverend Leon Kelly in the studio. Rev, we've been trying to get together on this for
For a while. We've been trying to do this for a while, Fred.
Since summer, but hey, better late than never.
Well, here we are. A lot of things have taken place, and a lot of things are going to continue to happen.
Absolutely.
And for us to be able to take time to come by and address some of the challenges that we're dealing with, not just nationally, but locally. There's a lot of things that are happening here that need to be looked at as well.
Boy, I think James Earl Jones just walked in the room.
James, okay. We all have our...
That is a great radio voice.
Okay, well,
Isn't it?
tell folks I can't even go into a bank with a mask on, rob a bank, They say, oh, Reverend Kelly, you're here to make a withdrawal, huh? Okay. But you got to be able to have a voice to provoke thought to provoke, motivate, be motivated to, make
Mhm.
decisions to, to deal with things. And, over 3 decades, I've been dealing with things here locally and nationally as far as youth violence, public perceptions of the department, reactions,
Mhm.
and it seems like every time we try to get a handle on the public perception of law enforcement, it seems like something happens. And over these decades, I've been dealing with so much violence, nationally and even focusing more so locally. And I have my own impressions on why and how things happen. Now, here we are again. It's almost like dealing with a knee-jerk reaction in wake of the shootings of police officers and people. And people got to understand that what we see are things that have been caught on video. There's been a lot of other things that may have taken place that had not been caught.
Yeah, before.
Yeah, and so it's easy for us to look at things and look at it from the raw footage of all, like this. I don't know who was on the phone before me who was talking.
That's Joe Livingston. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas. He's my
Okay.
friend. I should have introduced you, Joe. Reverend Kelly.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Reverend.
Well, God bless you, Joe. I mean, we are miles apart, but yet we're dealing with similar things there.
That's right. That's right.
And as we say that, I wasn't there. And I'm most likely Joe and none of us was there to actually see what happened when it happened. But yet all we are doing and dealing with is the residue, the things that have happened from what we've seen. And from face value, it looks that, okay, he was innocent. He had his hands up and it wasn't provoked. And, a lot of those things to take place. Rodney King, we looked, how many millions of people seen that? They didn't think that it was justified. We saw what we saw. But the end result was still an acquittal.
Mhm.
And so it burned down the neighborhood. It causes knee-jerk reaction. It shows that, we're dealing with a system that is not level. This situation, this scenario, along with what happened in Louisiana, what happened in Tulsa, what happened in, all these other
North
places.
Carolina.
Yeah, we see these things, and as Joe said, is it right from what we see? No. But on the other side is, the kid that was in the car told the officer, I have a sidearm. I mean, he put his hand on, I don't know if he on the dashboard or whatever. If it was made a threatening move, and we have to define what a threatening move is. And, the mindset of seem like some of the officers or people in law enforcement, many of them seem to be somewhat unspooked, so to speak, in wake of some of the things that they may have been faced with in past. And uh, do I condone it? As Joe said, no, I don't condone it based on what I've seen. But on the other side of it, when you say that, why don't we follow instructions? And sometimes, I won't say in all the cases, sometimes instructions are followed to the T and reactions do take place. And if your adrenaline is going, if your mindset is already set the way it is, and a lot of these guys who are out there in uniforms, I would say the majority of them want to go home at the end of the shift. But yet, when they have the attitude of, I would rather shoot first and then ask questions later, just in the wake of my safety, that attitude would have to be addressed and has to be changed. And maybe that would be a portion of the answer of go back to training and even mentally, just because you got a shield on and a gun, are you really mentally capable of doing the job that you applied for? So yes, it's tragic, and it's sad. Whatever happens out in Tulsa and Carolina, and it has a rippling effect on us here. And I know that me and the chief, we talked about this a number of times about public perception. How do the public see, and how can that, if it can, be rekindled as far as the trustworthiness of the community toward those that are in a position to serve and protect.
I'll tell you, I just found, an effect, statistics wise, that, um, once again, are we dealing with people? Yes. Are we a nation of laws? Yes. We have human beings trying to enforce those laws? Yes. Are they perfect? No. Are they going to make huge mistakes in judgment? Probably, especially when you put that kind of stress on them. So, and then again, a court system and juries and everything else that are in place to deal with those very few instances. But we're having an effect, just like you talked about, Reverend, on the other side of it as well. From what I'm reading here, murders, since all of this has been hitting the mainstream media, murders have now spiked by 17% among the 50 biggest cities in the U.S. And it's a result of cops being more reluctant to police neighborhoods out of fear of being labeled as racist. And you can take race out of that as well as just, there's also shootings that have happened that have, the same race involved or whatever. So what you've got now is cops more reluctant to police these high crime neighborhoods. And so additionally, there have been over twice as many cops victimized by fatal shootings in the first 3 months of 2016. So this is obviously not up to September 2016, but, that's what's been happening. So, when I hear all of this, the use of deadly force training needs to be done, and Riley will agree with that, I think, wholeheartedly. Police officers need more training than any of us because they are dealing with a violent situation every time out the door. But if we're going to add more regulation, I'm going to ask the question, who's going to enforce that regulation? And your only answer to me is going to be more human beings. And so, who do we trust to enforce, more and more of this? And I don't see the data where it shows that this is a huge, there were 35 in 2015, 35 unarmed shootings by the police. Of those, there were some black, some white, some Hispanic, and we can go into the race thing, but I think we're talking about in this forum right now just the use of deadly force, regardless of who's involved.
Are we saying 35? Are we saying 35 nationally? Nationally, and those are the ones that actually been reported or documented.
Yeah, as far as there's everything reported, 0 convictions for manslaughter or murder on any police in 2015 out of the 35.
Riley, I see you over here chomping at the bit, so I wanted to have you weigh in on this.
I've got a lot of thoughts, and going back to what I had said earlier about this Tulsa shooting, I'm completely speculating, of course, about that. But I'm not entirely convinced that was intentional. But I'm going to wait for the facts to sort themselves out. And that's what we always, that's what we need to do in these situations is, people are quick to react and quick to riot in the streets and all that. Some of the things that has happened in North Carolina has just been unfortunate. But let me give another perspective on things here. Every day in this country, tens of thousands of interactions occur between citizens and law enforcement. Tens of thousands. Every year, millions of interactions between citizens and police officers occur. And we're talking about literally a handful of interactions that may or may not have been handled correctly or incorrectly that resulted in someone being injured or even the loss of life. I'm not saying that even the one thing that happens that's wrong is that justifies it in any way, but just simply to keep in perspective that law enforcement officers have a very difficult job to do, and for the most part, statistically speaking, 99% of the time they handle that job pretty well. But you're right, Joe. As far as this year we've seen a spate of law enforcement officers killed in this country. It's been, statistically quite a bit higher than what it's been in years past. And so this is really a lose-lose situation what we're in right now, because we have people whose perception of police is negative, and that causes more people to react negatively towards them, which just increases, it escalates these situations rather than de-escalates them, and officers are even more on guard than ever before because more of their buddies have been killed this year than in years past, than in recent history. And so we're just kind of in this vicious cycle, and there's no end in sight as far as what I could tell until people get a cool head on both sides.
Riley, let me even ask this, because I always say, let's put this back on in your court. If you've seen a video of your family member, your brother, your mother, your significant other, and from base, you weren't there, but you've seen the video of your loved one being shot down, what do you think would be your reaction?
Oh, of course I'm upset.
Yeah.
It's expected. Like,
Yeah.
you are going to be upset about your family member or friend being shot.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
And that's what I deal with in my field of work. I deal with so many of these gangsters. People try to understand why this kind of hatred exists.
Sure.
And when you see your loved one, not on just on TV or elsewhere, your loved one, somebody you grew up with, deal with things that you had some straight feeling for, victim, I use the term victim, are affected like this, it's going to cause you being human to react.
Yeah.
And like I said, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent as to what happened, this is your loved one laying out there.
Yep.
And you don't want to talk about no rationality. You don't want to talk about no reason based on what you just seen. Until come heads prevail and things die down. And when we had that last shooting, and was it Minnesota, in which the driver was shot. He was sitting there, and then the 4-year-old was in the back seat.
Oh, yeah, that was Minnesota.
And people look at that and said, okay, he was following orders, and this happened. And so it puts in people's minds that who and why can I trust this? And still keeping in mind that we're talking about the ones that have just been caught on video, on film.
Right.
Now the other one that was in Baton Rouge, hands up and all that, caught on. If he didn't have his phone camera, we wouldn't probably have that video.
Right.
But it showed. So what do? How can we rekindle the trust? And I understand, like Joe said, like I would venture like 95 of those people who put on their uniforms, go to work, go there to make a difference, to change the lives of the community, to give a sense of peace, to a community. But as it is with any factor of professional work, it only takes a small few to cast a reflection on the total body. So how can we, the 95 that's doing great, why and how can we and how are we expected to put the emphasis and the resources in the 5% that are being bad? How do we weed them out? And, we say that these officers, they want to do this. People got to understand they made a decision to be in law enforcement. It's not like they're doing anybody, but this is their career. They made the decision. So and anybody who feel like it's too much, is too overbearing, they have the choice to not to do it, to get out. Mentally, we all got to deal with it. Where you talk about post-traumatic trauma, people coming from the war. Many of these officers on the streets deal with the same traumatic. And you know what? I shoot every week. We could have all the training and knowing what our sidearms does. But when the actual event takes place, all the other factors come into it. Because how many times people tell me, well, why couldn't they just shoot him in the leg? Why couldn't they just shoot him in the arm, knock the gun out the hand? And man, you got to
train to do that way.
And even if you got a Glock 17, for example, have 17, in the clip, you could go through that in a matter of split seconds.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about education, the community, the public need to be educated too. Because again, the training, if an officer from what I understand, pulled his or her sidearm to liquidate a threat, they're not talking about shooting in the arm, shooting in the leg. They're talking about center mass, eliminating the threat.
Well, I mean, you're only supposed to use, even as an officer, deadly force, when your life is in jeopardy.
Somebody else around. So people got to the community got to have to understand this. So yes, the officers need to be trained as well in some areas.
Absolutely.
Community need to be trained. That's what my Chief Robert Wright here, and Chief Nick Mintz in Aurora, we talk often, and they say, Rev, you can say we go to these community meetings, you can say some things that we can't say. That be same message, different messenger. And the thing is to get the public to understand, like you said, Joe, you are not shooting for the leg, you're not shooting for the arm, It's center mass.
No,
Look,
if you cause me to pull my firearm and have to fire it,
and
you're in
see,
trouble.
and that was
That's
it.
deadly force every
And
time it goes off.
and as
You can aim for my leg all day long,
yeah,
and you can miss and shoot me in the heart. If you pull the
man,
trigger, someone's very apt to die.
yeah.
You know, it's just what's going to happen.
And when you talk about pulling your sidearm, when you get to that point, and how many times we heard about they used tasers and it didn't work. When we hear about those deadly force used on a knife attack, and anybody in law enforcement know if you within a certain distance, that knife could certainly be a deadly force.
Absolutely.
But
But who
I
knows
also
that?
believe you're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and I'm going to tell the fact that since 2005 there is 13 convictions of wrongful murder, manslaughter by police officers. 13 out of tens of thousands of interactions a day since 2005. So, I mean, if you believe in the court of law and a jury of your own peers and evidence and the facts, like we always say, we're not there. We're watching from afar. We're watching on TV. We're watching, frankly, what everyone wants to give us.
Mm-hmm.
Those 13 deaths that were murder or manslaughter that were convictions are tragic and horrible. And I wish all those people were still alive today. But I don't believe the number 13 since 2005 institutes there's a problem, especially when you consider the number of interactions they have with violence on a daily basis. I'm not a police officer. Nobody in my family is. I have no reason to be backing them over civilians. I'm just saying that when we have this rhetoric against the police, I'm going to ask everyone to tell me who in the heck is going to go in these cities and stop the violence. Because if we go this way with the police force, it's going to be left to the neighborhoods. And I promise you, there's a lot more innocent people going to die when you leave that in the hands of the neighborhoods to figure it out.
And I want to take this time to welcome in our Google subscribers who are we're now filming this show as we speak. So if you've got any questions or you want to chime into the conversation, give us a call, 720-386-0513. Like I say, on the Shootist, you get a lot of great information. Where can you get all these expertise all in one room?
Mm-hmm. You know, again, a lot of people are looking for answers.
Right.
You know, and you know, my pet peeve is the knee-jerk reaction. You know, when we look at what is happening nationally within this, it provokes us as a community, as a nation, to look at it and say that it's something that needs to be fixed. But in my field of work, we just buried a kid yesterday. I have more kids in my hood killing each other. And we don't have these groups that are coming up, you know, Black Lives Matters and others. When I'm doing these funerals, burying these kids, it's almost like it's an expected thing in the hood. Chicago, hundreds of kids, 100 people are killed. I've often said if we who are trying to deal with this madness in our own hood if the community would be provoked, like they're provoked when they see what happened on TV with this, we would end gang violence. We would, to the way that we see it. So why is it that we seem to be acceptable to us, blacks killing blacks, brown killing brown, people in a certain community, certain economic status killing each other, to be acceptable? But then when we deal with something like this, then everybody and their mama want to get on the soapbox and talk about the injustice. You know, that's my, you know, and I got to deal with the community of faith. I got to deal with a lot of these other agencies now who are getting up on these soapboxes. Why, you know, we had the funeral yesterday. Young man that was killed last week in 5 Points. We had another one killed up in Park Hill, another killed out of Montbello. Who knows about it? It ain't no big thing. Why is their life no different than the young man that was killed by the police? Now, death is death. And maybe sometimes not to compare the scenarios around it, but the end result, we talk about dead kids. So that has been my stage of when I'm looking at my kids on these slabs and on these, you know, and burying them, man. And I'm saying, where's the hood? Where's the community? Why is it that, you know, now if any of my kids.
I've got a question for you, because you deal in these communities all the time. In my research here on some of this, you know, when you start looking at some of these shootings and killings, and I've read a lot in the past on this, and I'm curious to your thoughts, but mental health of a lot of these people, whether they, you know, were resisting arrest armed robbery. You know, they were doing illegal things, but they found a lot of mental health cases, and we just never addressed.
Right.
You know, like I said before, when you walked in, you know, why aren't when you're instructed to get down on the ground, you probably ought to do it when someone's got it. You know, and but if your mental health is in such a state that you can't even, you know, you're obviously not with reality. Do you find that in these with these kids you're working with?
Man, Joe,
I mean, is there?
I've often talked about post-traumatic stress. Within this environment, many of these kids are subjected to horrendous stuff. You know, they got kids. What a few weeks ago, a month ago, down in Lodo, we had over 200 rounds fired off. 200 rounds. That should have made national news. In Chicago, Detroit, Washington, they don't have 200 rounds in a gun battle. You know, and the chief said, "Rev, we blessed that only one homicide, one person died from that." My thought is, okay, you know, we got these kind of kids involved in this environment, shooting back and forth. Now they play for hours on the TV, the video game, Black Ops and all that shooting and all that. But then when they deal with the realities of life, and when somebody's shooting at you, and you got a smoker, a sidearm on you, you're gonna shoot back. You know, and then that adrenaline on the street, not with all the training that the police and others have, man, it takes it to another level. So, you know, you go through that over and over and over. And I've had kids who've come back who've been involved in it for 10, 15, just the majority of their life and exposed to all of that. Now they don't have no mental support. People go to war, see people shot up around it. They, at least when they come back, have the VA, have some kind of support system to deal with post-traumatic. There are those kids that I'm dealing with, they have strict mental issues that are not being addressed. They're having nightmares. They're having these phobias in their minds that, you know, demons are talking to them or somebody's trying to take. And anybody that knows that if somebody tries to take your birthday, it's going to be traumatic. You know, no matter who you are. And if it's not addressed, and then you're going to hear the homies talking about, oh, cuz here, you know, just smoke this weed or drink this blunt, you know, and then they up here doing whatever. And then the cycle repeats itself over and over. So, yes, but there is, you know, Joe, there is no program that I'm dealing with here that is set up to deal with mental issues of SDG guys or girls, or people who've been involved in the game for the majority of their life. They're left up to themselves to try to deal with their own answers, and that's tragic.
Well, I know Fred and everybody wants to talk, but
Okay.
I'll reiterate one thing. I think you're exactly right, Reverend, and I don't know the best way to do it. You probably have a great idea, but the mental health needs to be addressed with something besides what's called antidepressants. And if you follow that history, even as far as the theater shooting in Denver, in Aurora there, and you can go back to a lot of these mass idiots going around shooting kids, almost every one of them on antidepressants. Okay, so antidepressants aren't the answer. We need real help, you know, in these inner city and not even, I mean, kids in general need counseling and a place to go to an education, because, you know, from what I understand with PTSD and antidepressants could be a horrible mixture for, I mean, it's just funny to me that almost all these mass shootings, these guys are on antidepressants. There's something there.
Well, that's apparent in the Keith Scott shooting. That's the gentleman that got killed in North Carolina. Now, I saw a video for the first time here at the station. The wife actually videotaped the whole shooting, and she's talking to the officer saying, "Don't shoot him, don't shoot him. He just took his medicine," and he wasn't responding. So obviously he has some kind of mental condition because he's taking medicine for it. And she's saying he just took his medicine, and she's begging him, trying to come out of the car, and she's saying, "Don't do that, don't do that, don't shoot my husband, don't shoot, you better not shoot." And then you hear the shots ring out. And then she goes, and then obviously you saw her husband shot. She goes berserk, and I can't use the language that was on the air, but it was tragic. So I do think a lot of this, there's a lot of mental health issues. To Joe's point, when an officer points the gun at you or asks you to do something, myself, Riley, Rev, Joe, we're going to respond. We're not going to be combative.
Does that mean that we need to put more emphasis on educating the community how to respond, even in the elements of lack of trust? Your hands are up. You were complying. You land on the ground. And again, it goes back to still the mental portion of something. Rather, you're the big guy. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. You're complying, and then somebody put their knee in your neck. They crush your arm. And, Joe, you said that we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But a lot of times people are guilty until proven innocent. Riley, how do you think you would react? You doing everything you're supposed to, then knees put in your neck, into your back, your arms cricked over. How do you think you would feel? How would you react?
Yeah, and of course nobody feels good in that situation, and I know what you mean. I mean, and just a little bit about myself, Reverend Kelly. I am a part-time law enforcement officer, a volunteer. I've been through training. I've had other officers arrest me, throw me on the ground, knee on it's really not supposed to be on the neck, but
you're not supposed to.
Right there in that area between the shoulder blades. Arms cranked around backwards. It hurts. It's not comfortable. Nobody reacts or likes that. Nobody likes that at all, no matter who you are. So I hear you. And as an officer, I mean, we know that the most dangerous time of an interaction with somebody that is getting arrested is that moment that you are putting on the first cuff, and that's something that clicks in people's minds. They go, "Oh crap, this is real. It's going down. I don't want to go down," and then sometimes they react. Yeah. So it looks. Are we up to a break here?
Yes, we're just getting ready to take a break. So I want everybody to hold that thought. I want people to call in and listen to the show, 720-386-0513, and give us your opinion. We'll be right back here on the Shootist. Don't go away.
On your phone? Call the Denver Phone Doctor. Mobile service at your door.
Are we off?
720-999-1540.
So you in Denver or?
I'm a Colorado Ranger.
Okay.
Auxiliary law enforcement agency.
Yeah, and with that, a lot of my partners, a lot of my friends are in the department. I've been part of this group called the California KU Investigators Association. This last summer made my 22nd year consecutive. All of us are basically law enforcement, DOC, probation, this type of thing. Being a part of this group for the decades, you get to know somebody personally.
Yeah.
And on the other side, when they put on the uniform, we're supposed to be always professional. They like to drink, they like women, they like, there's another side of it when they're out of uniform. And some of the comments I hear, and one of the reasons I've been a part of this group, I bring another perspective to law enforcement, to this side. Being a community-based organization for at the time, another perspective. And like I told my chief and everybody else, still got support, support and all of that. But you put your pants on just like me. I tell folks straight up, I don't want to be a martyr. I've been on the hit list a number of times before, and I'm not going to just put myself in harm's way, in which I will to protect those around me. But I want to go home. I want to be a father. I want to be a husband. And when I teach my classes, I'm a CC pistol instructor as well. If you got a mental issue, say your money. I'm not going to put my name on it. Just say your money, because I am responsible. But then on the other side, we got a right on the Second Amendment, to bear arms. We got that right. But yet we need to be educated.
We do.
As to what we do.
We all do.
And here, I got security guards that have been killed.
And welcome back to the Shootist. Give us a call at 720-386-0513. We got a tactical flashlight being given away.
Actually, can I give the details on that?
Absolutely.
So we don't need listeners to call in for this. What we need you to do, here's the details. We'd like to give away a free tactical flashlight just to listeners of the program as a thank you for letting me come on the show and for being such great listeners on the program. There is a catch, however, but it's a small, simple one, all right? The only thing we need you to do is, yes, we're going to give away these flashlights for free, but we just need you to cover the shipping. And it's not like some of the ads that you see where they say, hey, yours free, just pay the shipping, and the shipping is like 10 or 20 bucks. It's not like that at all. We literally mean the actual shipping cost. It's like $2.75, okay, less than $3. Now these aren't like super, super nice, you know, they're not $100 tactical flashlights, nothing like that. They're just great little lights for those basic day-to-day jobs. They're perfect for keeping one in your truck, your car, your camper, your house, the nightstand. And also another great thing is that they run off with just one AA battery. You know, some of these tactical flashlights, it's some CR123 something or other, and like it's $10 just for one battery. No, just one AA battery that we all have rolling around in the glove box, in the drawers in the kitchen. So anyway, we're running this special offer for only 72 hours. We have no guarantee as to how long they'll last, as quantities are limited. So we want to give away, you know, we want to make sure every listener that wants one gets one of these. Don't delay, they will go quickly. So go right now to usafirearmtraining.com/shootist. Once again, usafirearmtraining.com/shootist. Remember, all you have to do is pay the shipping and handling charge. That's less than $3. And we thank you for being such excellent listeners to this program. Once again, the website for the special offer is usafirearmtraining.com/shootist.
And thank you, Riley. We certainly do appreciate that, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate it as well. So, what I want to get back to is we've talked about this a little bit off the air, and I don't want the federal government being more involved than they have to be, but I really think with the use of deadly force, because we've had these different law enforcement agencies from all over the country on with us. And it seems like the rules are they're different in every city, state, jurisdiction. Maybe there should be a national mandate on what should constitute deadly force, the use of deadly force. And being, like I say, well, I was intimidated, I feared for my life or whatever. And I've got two officers standing there, one with the taser and one with the gun, and they shoot simultaneously. Obviously, one thought process is different than the other. So I think we need something that's uniform. So when there's a when there's a shooting, it's a righteous shooting.
You know, it's interesting. I hear what you're saying, Fred. You know, I mean, granted, you know, we have 50 states in the United States of America, and within those, however many counties and however many cities and towns and jurisdictions, although usually the statutes for deadly force are at a statewide, you know, statute level. Departments, you know, law enforcement agencies do have varying policies from department to department that will govern, you know, when a gun, you know, can or should be drawn, you know, when shots can be fired, things of that nature. And there is some variation on that from, you know, somewhat, but on the whole, state or nationwide, the various state statutes on use of deadly force are fairly similar. You know, you could go to Texas or Florida or New York or Colorado, and you're going to have some pretty, you know, common elements of the use of, you know, what it constitutes justified use of deadly force. And one thing is that always somebody's life has got to be in danger, right? There has to be threat to life. And it can't be as simple as somebody, you know, just threatens and says, hey, I'm going to kill you. Like there's got to be something else to that. And you said something earlier in the beginning I thought was really key. I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I think you were implying that, like, sometimes it seems like, I think the idea is that you should be able to articulate why you felt the way you did and why you felt like there was a threat. And that is an important component in these sort of situations. You need to be able to articulate exactly why you felt threatened, your life or the life of someone else. Colorado, like many other states, even allow you, even us as citizens, to defend and protect the lives of third parties if we perceive that somebody's life is in danger from a viable threat. Just right here in Colorado, I'll quote the statute for you right here. A couple of key things. When you're outside of a dwelling to use deadly force, you must have a reasonable ground to believe, and do believe, that you or another person is in imminent danger of being killed or receiving great bodily injury. Now, I'm not going to go into great amount of detail as to like what we would constitute as great bodily injury. But that's one key component. And the other thing is that you also believe a lesser degree of force would be inadequate, suggesting like something lesser than the use of me using deadly force would be inadequate to stopping or preventing this other person from seriously injuring or killing me or another person.
So when we start talking about definition, defining, reasonably, having a reasonable thought, a doubt, or a thought that you are going to be harmed or somebody else is going to be harmed, that leaves a wide area of interpretation. And when we look at the justifiable shoots, and as Joe had made mention about the numbers of justifiable shoots have been way outnumbered, the ones that have not been.
Right.
So when you again are in that environment, so many things are taking place, and it's the average citizen. It's hard for them to even imagine, themselves being in that scenario. But on the other side of it, I'm looking at it from the side of my gangsters.
Mhm.
When they feel like they're in imminent danger or harm,
Yeah.
and they feel like they need to protect themselves, they would find themselves being still charged. They would find themselves being incarcerated until they are proven either right or wrong. Now, are we talking about a double standard? Are we talking about just elements of preservation of life? That has often been a question from my gangster man. What are we supposed to do? This rival gang don't like me. They killed my homie. They killed my friends and all that. And then that's what they come up with. They said, Rev, I would rather be tried by 12 than to be carried by 6.
Right.
So now if the police department, the regular officer on the street feels imminent danger to whatever degree, he or she's certainly going to be justified until proven wrong. So how do we deal with that? How do we balance that thought pattern of the average citizen that has a license, that has and most times, even if you have a CCW license and all that, you use deadly force, you got to go through the whole rigmarole of being interrogated. You got to go through lawsuits. You got to go through all of that. And I try to tell my students, the sidearm is the last resort. But yet, if you feel that this is a matter of taking your life or somebody around you, be like some of the officers say, you shoot first, and we defend you later. So, that is my thought of that. We know what the statutes say.
I hear you, and so there is this grayish area. We have to ask the question, what is reasonable?
What is it?
Right?
Help me understand this.
And ultimately, I mean, what it is whatever a jury of 12 is going to look at you and believe that, oh, if I was in that same position, I would have done the same thing. Or if I was in the same position, that wasn't the right thing to do. I wouldn't have done that. That's really what the
right. You talked about a jury, for example. We talked
Right.
about a case in point here.
Mhm.
One of the kids I felt was the closer thing to a Joshua for me, who's trying to take my place to go on. Terrence Roberts' case. He was a gang member, went to prison, turned around. No, he was planning for a peace rally. He was threatened by the gangsters at that time. He left, walked half a block to his car, got his sidearm, came back, had the confrontation, shot the kid about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Now, he was arrested. He was in his mind, imminent danger. Had to convince the jury. His lawyer personally came over to me and talked to me for an hour and a half, pleading with me to please testify to try to help the jury understand the mindset. And so I was on the stand. My whole premise was to get the jury to understand the mindset of 30 years of me being out there and the threats I felt. And I had to sway the jury's thought pattern. And I did. And if I didn't do that, he would be sitting in jail doing the rest of his life in prison right now for murder. The jury's mindset was swayed. The same thing with the police officers. They have to sway the jury's opinion of what they did. Who could do that? If I wasn't in a position to do what I did, my kid, Terrence, would be doing great things in the community trying to make redeem himself. He would be sitting in prison right now. So how do we address that? We're talking about, are we balanced? But if we look at things from face value, it seems like we're dealing with an unbalanced playing field. How are we supposed to play this game? How are we supposed to even compete with the laws that we have in place and with the mindset that exists in
And
the
Joe,
community?
we're not trying to exclude you. I want to see if I can get your thoughts because I want to get back to you because they're doing something different in the Texas schools, and I commend them for it. So go ahead and respond to what you've been hearing.
Did we lose him?
Oh, Joe, you there? Well, you may have lost Joe, but
Hold on, here I am. Here
Okay.
I am. I've been talking for 3 minutes and nobody can hear me. That's probably a good thing. I was just saying I could listen to those two guys go on for on and on. You're not having to come my way, but my take is the Reverend is right. Riley's right. The sad thing, my point after all day today is I'm just sad. I turn on the TV, I see Charlotte. I'm in Dallas. 5 officers got shot in one day. Am I a police officer again? No. Is that tragic? Yes. We have, as American citizens, the greatest system of protection of freedom of anywhere in the world, and nobody can debate me on that. It's our Constitution, and we're a land of free people. I see, like Reverend mentioned, it's like the motion. Is it justified? It's justified when your emotions get going. When you see a relative go through this or whatever, to get emotional. But then I would hope, most of us are talking with friends and family and maybe going to some of these protests and just talking to these people and go, listen, we are a land of free people. That means people are free to do some bad things. And I'll bet Reverend and Riley and you, Fred, and everybody else who's listening will agree with me that you can have all the federal regulation you want. You can make these cops tell them they're going to do this, that, and the other thing, all you want, more and more and more, and somebody is going to be a racist, going to be a murderer, even in the police force. But those instances, I still believe are rare, and I agree with Riley. Yes, we have a jury of our peers. I'm going to come at this from a CHL holder. I hope to God, I pray to God every day that I'm not in a situation where I have to protect my family by taking someone's life.
Joe.
Second Amendment type show, and we're talking to a lot of CHL holders.
Yeah.
If we do, you better know your laws.
Yes.
And you better be trained in them, and you better be trained with your firearm.
True.
Because I'm going to be sitting in a jail cell just like you would be, Fred, or any of these other citizens of this country, and they have to prove me guilty of murder in that case. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to say I've got to trust that they have to prove me. And when I say that I was in danger for my life, that's the best there is. I would hate to be in Mexico and take someone's life. I don't think you'd ever see the sunlight, whether you get a jury or not.
Joe,
we have something great, so let's everyone just relax, realize that we don't know the facts.
Yeah, I just need to make a point before you go, Joe. I know our time is up. Just a quick question. A quick question. You use a jury of our peers, and that's something I always want to emphasize. And I always want to throw it back on one. Let me ask this, Joe. If you, and you've probably seen a lot of courtroom settings, and we're talking about juries of your peers, if you were sitting in a defense stand, if you're sitting at the defense table, and your jury, now I take it that you're white, right?
Yes, I am.
And if all 12 jurors were black, how do you think you would feel? And these were juries of your peers. How do you think? I just want to throw it out because when I hear that often.
Sure, and I'm not racist, and I would hope those 12 black jurors would be justified with me as well. But yeah, I would say that's not a jury. My peers and my lawyers probably have to be changed out at some point.
Yeah, Ronnie, how would you feel, man? I mean, you think about this, because I've seen it. Most of these cases are all white jurors with a black defendant. Right. And how do you think they
understand the streets?
Yeah, none.
No, I hear you there, and so I still, obviously, I don't think of myself as a racist. So if I was on trial and I saw a jury panel full of African American jurors,
You
and
say, "Oh man."
you know, it would probably feel a little odd, like, well, that's interesting, but I would still hope that they're like, I mean, we go through a jury selection process. A lot of these big cases.
But why is it all the minorities and others seem to be excluded? That's what I say. And
Maybe they're not. I don't know.
I look at the case, even when I say that in my case, my nephew was shot 8 times. And there is 3 people that was tried on this. The 2 other co-defendants, they had a mixed jury. And the person that actually orchestrated the whole crime, he had an all-white jury. He looked like a college kid, and he orchestrated the whole thing. The other 2 co-defendants got up to 120 years. One got 40 years. And the one that orchestrated because of an all-white jury got acquitted. Now, help me understand that scenario. We say we're not prejudiced, and I was blessed to be able to talk to one of the jurors later. And she said, Rev, look, I know that the evidence was so overwhelming, but I felt looking at that kid that he was used as a scapegoat in this element, in this environment. And I just felt that he was sort of coerced into that. So hear this. Help me understand the system, the process of jurors of your peers. And when we look at the mode of the jury selection, and even in his case, there was a number of people of color. But yet the prosecution and the lawyers, they did the job of excluding that. So sometimes I just try to just bring that up. And I don't know, Joe, you have made mention of it. That's why I just wanted to get your take from out of Dallas on that.
And I wanted to get to something in Texas, but right now we've really much run out of time. But I hope I can have Reverend Kelly back on with us again.
Yeah, we could do that. Because again, talking about something, an hour makes it look like 5 minutes.
It does.
When we get to going here.
True.
We could be talking about this from here to doomsday, but this was.
Isn't this an 8-hour show?
I wish, in this case, I wished it was, but unfortunately, it's not. But Riley, your closing thoughts here?
Yeah, there is no simple answer to any of this going on in our country right now. That's the first thing. I do call for cooler heads to prevail on every side of this whole situation. The law enforcement side, the community side, races, all races, people. Let's just try to be responsible citizens. And just before I go, just a reminder: if you want to get this tactical flashlight for free, just got to pay for less than $3 of shipping and handling. Just a reminder to go to usafirearmtraining.com/shootist. Thanks for your time today, guys.
Hey, and Joe, what do you want to say before we wrap the show up?
I just want to reiterate the same thing. All of us, we're human beings. We care for each other. I haven't met the Reverend or Riley in person. I have you, Fred. We all care about each other, and we want the well-being for all. So just take care of each other and use your head. Think about things.
And Rev, I want to thank you for
bless you, baby.
being on the show, and hopefully we can get you back again soon.
Well, I'm down the street. I'm here. I'm local.
Okay, you just down the street. So you better be local because it's a long way out here anyway.
Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, thank you. This is another great edition of the Shootist. Listen to us every Friday from 12 to 1 on KUHSdenver.com. We'll see you down the road.
These days, anything could happen. Are you really prepared for it?